Hello, everyone. My guest today is Andy Cook. He is building and is co-founder and CEO of a company called Tettra, knowledge sharing for growing teams. Prior to that, he was product manager at HubSpot, where he helped start their free marketing product line. He was the co-founder of Rentabilities, which was acquired by HubSpot back in October of 2013. Andy, you ready to take us to the top?
I'm ready to go.
All right. So did you get rich from that acquisition? Why aren't you on a beach somewhere doing nothing?
I have too much ADD not to work.
All right. So how long did you stay with HubSpot after that acquisition in 2013?
I was there for 2 years.
Okay. So then did you go right into Tettra in 2015?
Yeah, we came up with the idea for Tettra while we were growing our team. The product at the time at HubSpot was called Lead-In. So we were growing this product called Lead-In. It kind of was like a startup inside of HubSpot. And as we were growing our team, myself and my now co-founder of Tettra, Nelson, were in Cambridge, and our entire engineering team was in Dublin, Ireland. And so we communicated a lot over chat. And there were a lot of times where we needed like asynchronous, more long form communication, and we just didn't have a good tool for it that was hooked up to chat. So we came up with the idea for Tettra.
So would you compare this to Slack today or no?
We're not we integrate with Slack, so we're a supplemental tool that works with the Slack platform. So like Slack's more chat synchronous communication, and Tettra is more documentation asynchronous communication.
I see. I guess what I was getting at was, did Brian miss out on this little science fair nest egg, which could have been Slack, but it ended up leaving HubSpot and being spun out?
No. So technically, Brian didn't miss out on it because he invested in Tettra. So if we do become the next Slack, he's got a small piece of that. And then the product we were working on inside of HubSpot is actually doing really well too. It's their low end free marketing automation
was this
tool.
Like the Sidekick tool?
So if Sidekick was like the free tool for sales, Lead-In, which is now called HubSpot Marketing Hub Starter or something, that was the free tool for marketers.
Yeah, you become public and all the names become more complicated.
Yeah, totally. They made us change the name at one point, but it was the right call.
That's funny. And was this a science fair project? I know Brian gave great detail when he came on the show about how they use science fairs to drive innovation. Was this a science fair project?
So it's a HubSpot Labs project. So basically the way it worked is my first company with Rentabilities was acquired. We'll be upfront, it was a talent acquisition. So did not get rich, but did okay for myself, especially for like, a 25-year-old who invested all of his time and money into his first startup. It was nice to have a job too. That was a huge benefit. And I learned a ton of HubSpot. But so Lead-In started in HubSpot Labs. And on my first day, they put me with another person who had been working there for 3 years, who I also happened to be friends from middle school with, Nelson, and the then chief product officer at the time, David Cancel, who's the CEO of, David Cancel, proper pronunciation, is the CEO of Drift. He was the chief product officer at the time. And he just told us like, hey, we want to build marketing software for like very small businesses that we don't normally sell to. Don't know what it should cost. Don't know what it should do. Just make sure to use orange in the logo. Go. So we worked on it, just the two of us, Nelson and I, for about a year, grew it to about 7,000 small businesses using it, and eventually got more funding, which is like budget headcount inside of HubSpot, from Brian and Dharmesh and JD and all those people to grow the team and build it out more. And
then, so how do you leave HubSpot?
Oh, yeah. Good question. So we left HubSpot on good terms. So we came up with the idea for Tettra probably the beginning of 2015.
Well, did this other thing fail? What got you off of the small business tool?
Oh, right. Yeah. So it didn't fail at all. We hit our milestone, which was to rebuild the entire product, which was only built for WordPress at the time, on the HubSpot infrastructure. So there's like a cloud version and a WordPress plugin. So we built that out with the team in Dublin, and then we actually got it announced on stage at Inbound as like a big product launch as well. So when we left, it was in good hands. They knew what they were doing. There was another product manager who was working on it too. So we kind of like transferred all that knowledge that was in our heads into the heads of the team moving forward. And then we left to go start Tettra. Okay. So all is well.
Very good.
Friends with
so asynchronous communication really got going 2015, 2016. Help me understand pricing model. Is it pure play SaaS? And if so, on average, what are customers paying per month for it, would you say?
It's pure play SaaS. Our ARPA, so like average revenue per account, is about $110. So it's like $1,300 per year.
Yep. And what does that typically look like? Is that a team size of 2 people, 10 people?
So it's all over the map, and like we've had many different pricing models, and we just constantly change them. I think we've changed pricing like 8 times since we started 4 years ago. But the average team that works really well with Tettra is between 50 and 500 people, and they're growing and hiring frequently.
And walk me through how you got your first 5 or maybe first 100 customers.
So it's really interesting. So for the first 6 months, we just hustled, reached out to people. We built the whole product. People said they would use it. We built it like an MVP in, I don't know, 8 weeks or so, gave it to them. No one used it. That was kind of like the, oh crap moment. Do we make a huge mistake quitting HubSpot? But then we realized that the reason why they weren't using it wasn't because they didn't have the pain point.
Wait. Because I want to get in your head here at this moment. How much money had you spent on the MVP at that point where you're like, oh my God, I hope this thing works?
There was a big opportunity cost, right? Like I and Nelson both left a bunch of unvested options that were worth actual money because HubSpot had gone public at that point. And then like salaries as well. I put in a bunch of my own money just to like fund our expenses because we didn't have any investors. So it's probably like, in today's dollars, like, cause their stock's gone up like $400,000 at least.
Fair enough. So that's like doubling team engineering, opportunity cost, all that stuff. $400K on the MVP.
Yeah. Well, no, not on the MVP. We, just spent our time and like probably 10K of like my own money for like an office and random tools and that type of stuff. I'm just thinking like opportunity.
Who's the engineer? Who built? Are you the engineer, or were you paying a team in Dublin?
No. All right. So Tettra was just Nelson and I to start. We're both technical. I'm more like back-end engineering. He's more product front-end engineering. And then we kind of split the business.
Okay. So 10K in hard cash to get it going, but maybe another 350 in opportunity cost, something like that.
Right. Yeah. Right, exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So you launch and then you go, oh my gosh, no one's using it. Well, then what?
So at the same time, fortuitously, Slack opened up their platform. And so we took that product idea, brought it back to all those same people. And we're like, what if we hook this thing up to Slack, which you're using? And everyone was like, yes, I want that. Can I have that right now? So we threw out the whole first MVP we had rebuilt a new MVP 100% on the Slack platform over 2 weeks at the end of 2015. Launched that, got in their app store and got like 500 companies to sign up, like to auth their Slack account and create a Tettra
over what period of time?
So we were onto something then, but the product was crappy.
Over what period of time did the 500 come in?
What did you say? Sorry about that. That was probably like 3 weeks, maybe.
And those were the first 3 weeks on Slack.
Yeah. So we were probably, I don't know the exact number, but we were probably one of the first 50 apps in the Slack app store. Mm-hmm. And that was just really lucky to kind of realize that opportunity and ride that wave. And it was also kind of the Wild West for the Slack platform at the time, where like anyone on any team could auth any app without getting permission. So like we just had huge brands coming in and trying out the product. And then we manually sold like the first 10 of them with fake product mockups and demos.
Did the Slack fund invest in you guys?
We didn't take Slack fund money because they have a requirement where you have to have institutional capital, which we haven't raised any institutional capital, so we can't raise from them.
How much have you raised to date?
We raised 1.6 million.
Would you do that again or no? I mean, it sounds like you had some financial wherewithal where you could bootstrap for a while. Do you regret giving up that equity?
If I were to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't raise that much in the get-go. So we raised 900K in our first round and then kind of did a follow-on angel round of 600K a couple of years later. If I were to start over again, I probably would have raised like 300K, maybe enough just to fund life, maybe one other engineer, and they just kept it small and scrappy until we got to the point where we were making enough money just to fund it or go raise a bigger round.
Yeah. Smart. Interesting. Good learnings there all around. So you launch on Slack, 3 weeks in, you get 500 installs, then you use some fake product mockups to really test pricing, and you get some kind of people saying, yes, I'd pay for that. Maybe they forward you some money and you say, I'll have it in 6 months or something like that. How many customers have you scaled to now today?
We have 535 right now.
Okay, 535. Okay, so of those 500, you start learning like what converts people to paid. What is that today? What do you know you have to get a free user to do in the first week to drastically increase the likelihood they convert to paying?
So the activation event for us is creating 4 pages and inviting 2 team members. If you do those 2 things, in the first like 10 days, if you do those 2 things, you generally have a 50% chance at converting. But it's all over the map. Really right now, I'm digging into like what of the free accounts are the best fit customers that are going to make us the most money. And then how do we close more of those customers? Because, a 5-person company is much different than a 150 person company revenue wise.
Of course. No, of course. Okay, good. So can I take 535 customers at the 110 ARPA you gave me earlier? You're doing about, call it $60,000 a month right now in revenue.
Nailed it. 60,139 at the end of June.
Love it, man. And what's growth look like? So where were you a year ago?
So a year ago, we were at, I just did this out, but we were about half that. So we've grown 67% over the last year.
That's pretty good. And now I'm assuming most of that growth came from new customer ads. You don't have a strong upsell muscle yet, do you?
We actually do have a pretty good upsell muscle.
Oh.
So 48% of our revenue in the last 12 months came from upgrades and 52% came from new accounts.
Interesting. So if let's dive into churn and expansion real quick to get to net revenue retention. So the cohort you signed up exactly 1 year ago, you said on average they expanded by about 42%?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then what was churn in that same cohort over the past 12 months?
Churn in that same cohort, I can go back and
a range is fine too.
So I'm going to caveat this as last July, we switched from a free trial model to a full freemium model where you get 20 free pages. And so those cohorts are like slightly different because that was a dramatically like different business model that we changed to.
Yep. That caveat's totally cool.
Our net MRR, like churn last month was negative 3.42%.
Okay, so that would mean negative 3.4. So that's the same as saying net revenue retention is about 103%.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, which would mean your expansion outpaces your churn annually, call it by at least 3 or 4 percentage points.
Yeah. Right now, so we made a big switch, like I said, in last July, which was to get people using the product first and get it ingrained in their company's operating system. And then over time, as they add more people or they need more of the pro features, they upgrade over time, like kind of similar to Slack.
Yep. 2 team members, again, 4 pages, and that's the metric. Why are 4 pages critical? Or talk about, I know obviously you talked about what the product does, but why are 4 pages a critical metric?
Yeah, generally, the people coming in right now because of our acquisition channels kind of know they have this problem. They're searching for things like internal wiki, internal knowledge base, that type of thing. Or they're coming in through the Slack app directory and they know that stuff's all over the place in Slack. And so what they're coming in with is a sense of like what they need a tool like ours to do. And so they need to vet that the thing actually works, has all the features that they care about, and is like pretty easy to use and connects into Slack the way they want. Like 95% of our top 100 MRR customers use Slack. So that's like a pretty key integration. So they're testing it out, and then they're also pulling in like other stakeholders as well. So it's usually like those 2 other people who are kind of involved in the decision-making process. And then at that point, they're able to like make a decision, buy it, load it up with more content, roll it out to their full team, which is how we get all that upgrade revenue.
Interesting. All right, we're running out of time here. Last couple of questions here. What's the team look like today? How many people?
We're 7 people strong.
7. I love that. All local there in Boston, or are you spread out?
We're all local, co-located.
Very cool. And then a burning cash today, or break even or profitable?
We're burning cash, but we're default to live pretty handedly.
Okay, good. So, translating that, essentially, you have variable expenses you could turn off and be break even or profitable.
Yeah, exactly. And like we'll be profitable, I think, by like March 2020, maybe sooner, depending on growth rate.
And what are you, right now, are you talking like 10 grand net burn, even with variable included, or more?
It's like 20 net burn.
Okay, so that's interesting. It always gives me a sense of the founder's risk profile, right? What that burn looks like relative to revenues.
Yeah, we're trying to invest in growth. We're an ambitious company. Like even though we haven't raised like proper institutional capital, like we want to grow and we think we can. We just don't need a ton of cash to do it.
Yeah, I love that mindset. I think it's totally doable. You don't have to subscribe to the VC only model. All right, good stuff here, Andy. Let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Not a CEO, but I'm following Jay Simons, the president of Atlassian, pretty closely. Their model's pretty similar to ours.
Yeah, and if you guys want to hear Jay on the show, he came on and described a lot of their model about 2 months ago. You can look that up on Google. Number 3, what's your favorite online tool, Andy, for building your company?
Profit well.
Yeah. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
8.
And what's your situation? Married, single, kids?
Single.
Okay. No kiddos?
No kiddos, but want them someday.
Very cool. And how old are you?
31.
31. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
That it's a marathon, not a sprint. Don't burn out, and remember to exercise and sleep.
Guys, Tettra.co, an internal wiki, really got a lot of traction built on top of Slack now today, doing about $700,000 in terms of ARR run rate from 535 customers paying on average $110 per month. They're burning, call it $20,000 a month right now. But again, really trying to drive growth. They've grown about 68% year over year in terms of revenue. They've raised about $1.6 million, team of 7 with about 38% revenue churn annually, 42% expansion for 104% net revenue retention annually as Andy looks to continue to scale. Andy, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you for having me on.